Imagine a world where the financial system is collapsing and there is no government to save it. Today, we rely on central banking, but in 1907, that safety net simply didn't exist. A single spark was about to ignite a fire that would threaten the very foundation of America. At the center of the storm stood one man, John Pierpont Morgan, a banker more powerful than the president. He was 70 years old, retired, yet he was the only person who could stop the empire from falling. Behind the locked doors of his private library, the fate of a nation would be decided in a single night. This is the story of how one man became the nation's central bank to save the American economy. It all started with greed, a failed attempt to corner the copper market by speculator Augustus Heinze. The bet failed, the stock crashed, and the banks that funded his scheme were suddenly in deep trouble. The Knickerbocker Trust, New York's second largest trust, was the first giant to tremble. Rumors spread like a virus. People realized their money might be gone forever. This was a bank run. Thousands of depositors lined up, desperate for their cash. This was a crisis of liquidity. The banks had assets, but they didn't have enough physical cash for everyone. When the vaults ran dry, trust vanished. And without trust, the entire financial system begins to rot. The contagion spread. One trust company after another began to face the same deadly panic. On Wall Street, the stock market was in freefall. Panic had taken total control. J.P. Morgan was away on his yacht when the news reached him. The world was burning, and they needed a leader. He returned to New York not as a citizen, but as a commander. The battle for the American economy was about to begin. Time was running out. Every hour without cash meant another bank would die. The U.S. Treasury was powerless. Secretary Cortelyou arrived in New York, but the government's hands were tied. President Roosevelt was on a hunting trip. Washington had no laws and no money to stop the bank runs. The government could only provide a few $1 million, a drop in the ocean of a $1 billion panic. Cortelyou told Morgan, "The government will provide the funds, but you must lead the rescue." Morgan began a cold, clinical assessment. He would only save those who were solvent, but lacked liquidity. For the Knickerbocker, he said no. He decided to let it fail to preserve his resources for the rest of the system. He organized a team of young analysts to audit every bank in New York overnight. He was doing the work of a central bank alone. Next in line was the Trust Company of America. The panic was reaching a breaking point. "This is where the line is drawn," Morgan declared. How would not let another giant fall? The titans of Wall Street were terrified. They flocked to Morgan's home, waiting for their orders. The stage was set for the most famous meeting in financial history. The doors were about to be locked. One man against the madness. The 1907 panic was about to meet its master. It was the night of November 2nd. The most powerful men in finance were summoned to Morgan's library. Then the unthinkable happened. Morgan locked the door and put the key in his pocket. "No one leaves this room," he declared, "until we find a way to save the city's trust companies." While the bankers argued and panicked, Morgan sat in a side room, calmly playing a game of solitaire. They needed $25 million by dawn to stop the bank runs, but nobody wanted to risk their own gold. As the hours passed, the tension became unbearable. The survival of the American economy hung by a thread. At 4:45 a.m., Morgan walked in with a single sheet of paper. He told them, "Sign it or face total ruin." One by one, the titans of Wall Street surrendered. They pledged their wealth to save the system. The sun rose on a new world. The panic was over, not because of a law, but because of one man's will. When the banks opened that morning, the cash was there. The crowd dispersed. The crisis had been averted. For a brief moment, J.P. Morgan was the hero of America. He had acted as a one-man central bank. But even as the cheers rang out, a new fear was born. Was one man too powerful for a democracy? The public was grateful, but the government was terrified. They realized the entire nation's fate relied on a single private citizen. 6 years later, the Federal Reserve Act was passed. The era of private giants controlling the money supply was over. Morgan died just months before the Fed was born. He was the last of his kind, a banker king in a changing world. Today's central banking system is built on the ruins of the 1907 panic. The Fed now does what Morgan did in his library. We no longer wait for a hero. We rely on a system. But as we've seen, systems can also fail. History shows that whenever trust vanishes, the ghost of 1907 returns to haunt the markets. J.P. Morgan didn't just save a city. He changed the way the world handles money forever. If you want to understand the hidden mechanics of wealth in history, you are in the right place. Subscribe to the Wealth Archive and hit the bell to never miss a story from the vaults of financial history.